welcome to my garden. Okay, so I had a couple people ask me, how do I get so many tomatoes? For reference, I'm going to show you the garden, but for reference, I have about 40 determinate or indeterminate cherry tomato plants in here. 3 different varieties. I have a yellow, a orange, and a dark red variety. I'm going to flip the camera so you guys can see. So this is my growing space. So it's like 2 rows of tomatoes there, and then 2 rows of tomatoes going all the way back. So with this many tomatoes, I would say at this point I've harvested about 15 pounds of tomatoes. I've been giving them away, eating them, cooking with them, all kinds of things. What I showed you was about 6 pounds in my picture. And at this point, because everything is coming into ripeness, I'm harvesting every 2 to 3 days, depending on how many are out here. I usually have the kids pick them. So as far as getting a lot of tomatoes, one thing I do typically when I only have like a couple plants, I would self-pollinate. So I take a tomato flower and pollinate the other flowers on there just so I can get good pollination overall. With this many tomatoes, I don't do that. I let the pollinators do their job, so the bees and all the little bugs that come in here and live their lives, I let them pollinate. But if I do see some that are kind of like stragglers, like this tomato plant right here still has some flowers on it, I would just I would pollinate that just, whenever I have time. So that'll increase your yield if you pollinate yourself. Also, as far as nutrients is concerned, tomatoes like heavy phosphate and phosphorus towards the end of their, like during their bloom cycle. They don't like a lot of nitrogen, so whatever fertilizer you're using, just cut the nitrogen back in about June, July, and that way you'll get more fruit instead of a lot of foliage. Yeah, so that's all I do for tomatoes. Mind you, these were started from seed. I actually harvested seeds from some tomatoes that I really enjoyed from the grocery store. They were organic, and harvested those, dried them out, and those were the seeds I used to grow these. And I started them in about March inside, and then brought everything out towards the end of May, just because, Michigan and the frost. So they've been out here growing. When you plant your tomato transplant, you always want to plant them as deep as possible, because the tomato plant will actually root all along the vine. So that'll also give you a good bounty as far as your tomato harvest is concerned, if you have a good root structure that is established early. Also, another thing, there is still hope if you want to grow tomatoes. You cannot start from seed right now, and you cannot start from small seedling. However, you can start from large cutting. So I have some examples. I'm gonna go to the other side of the garden. And this way, if you start some more tomato plants now, you can have a harvest all the way until our frost, which is about mid-fall for our zone, which is zone 6AB in Michigan, southeast Michigan. So right here is a tomato that I have potted. This is actually a cutting off of my main tomato plants. That's another way to increase your yield. You want to cut, they're called suckers. So any point in the tomato where there's another shoot coming out, that'll actually be another plant. So if you cut that, you can either root it directly in dirt, or you can root it in a cup of water. It'll root after 4 to 7 days, depending on conditions, and you'll have a whole new tomato plant. So if you're finding you're not really seeing the bounty you want or the harvest you want right now, is a good time to take cuttings off of like any stem off your tomato plant. You can cut it, pop it in some water, it'll root, and you can have 2 plants going, and you can get a harvest all the way until mid-October. So I'm going to put this up so you guys can reference it. Any more questions, please comment or ask me. Bye.